Hi everyone, my name is Yakshmi Priya and welcome to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be trying out the Daily Rowney Watercolor Aquarelle watercolor tubes. This is a set of 12. Now I did swatch out the colors, but the colors do not match the colors that are on the box, although it does say at the back of the box that the colors may vary, but those are the colors that I got. And I'm using the Prime Art hot press watercolor paper, size A5 for this. All the supplies will be listed in the description box below. Just a disclaimer, all the products that I'm using, I've purchased them myself. I'm not sponsored by any brand or product. I just always am on the lookout for new products to see if I could find something that maybe will work better, or maybe something that I can add to my art supplies, or even maybe products that I think other people would like me to try out, just to show you what the product can do. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to get out there. But now back to the video. I'm just initially sketching out the butterfly. Now this is just a butterfly with some flowers, and I'm just sketching out the butterfly with a water soluble graphite pencil. That's just so that I don't have any harsh lines of graphite when I'm applying the watercolor. Now the first thing, I wasn't very happy that the colors were not exactly the colors that were on the box, but you can mix the colors that I need, so that's not a problem. And I ended up mixing a lot of the colors that I used for this piece. So what you can see me doing here is I've just put some orange for the orange of the butterfly. Now on first impression, the paint, I was not actually happy with this paint. It was very sort of like jelly like, and it kept like slipping and wasn't catching well when I used those brushes I use for all my watercolor paintings and gouache paintings, and I never really have issues with them. But as I was working with these, the brush strokes were showing through, the paint was moving around. I wasn't too happy with how it was being applied. Some of the colors were not so bad, like this darker reddish color that I'm adding now was not as bad, but also it was a smaller area. But with the butterfly, I was not happy with how it was applying. But definitely this, I think, is an introductory set maybe for beginners. It can work well. For artists who use more artist quality paints, I think you're going to have some difficulties with it. But also at the same time, I think you can practice a lot with it. So it's not something, it's a cheaper paint, so you're not going to have a big investment to make if you're learning. And also as you work with it, like as I started working with it, I started using that different texture that paint has to my advantage to create the different textures for the leaves and the flowers, as well as the butterfly as well. So I wouldn't say it was a complete a loss. I was able to salvage the painting. The more I used it, the more I realized how I can go about using the paints and using those textures of the paint to my advantage. So I can't really say that it's a problem with the paint, but it is a cheaper paint. It's not high quality as for example, the Daily Rowney Aquafine watercolors are beautiful, high quality paints that I've used and I still use till now. These are not up to that level, but I guess these are more for beginners, or maybe people who want to just try it out for starting off with watercolors. And honestly, you're not going to be spending a lot of money on these. I just made a mistake with the paint. I applied too much paint, so that's not the paint's fault, that's me. But yeah, the paint definitely is for beginners. Although I can say I was a little frustrated at the beginning when I started using it, but as I got through working with it, I started to get used to the paint and its texture, and I was able to achieve what I wanted for this painting. So you can see I used those strokes and those brush strokes to my advantage. I mean, with oil paints or when you're painting with very thick acrylics, you let those brush strokes show. So because these watercolors are quite thick, I was able to apply you know, I could apply let the brush strokes show and let my painting lines show, which helped to enhance the texture of the butterfly's wings and also the colors. Another thing that you'll see me later using is the white. I was really impressed with the white of this paint. With watercolors, it's very difficult to find a white that's opaque, and I usually always use my white gouache, but with this one, the white goes on very opaque, and it can be seen on the black perfectly. So highly recommend this set if you're starting off, if you want to get used to watercolors. As you can see, it works very well. Look how the white just pops out on the paper, and I'm not having any issues with it. So it's just a matter, I think, initially, my initial thought, I was a bit concerned because of the paint moving around and being very thick. And even if I add water, it was still very gel-like, or like a gel sort of a feel to it. But as I worked with it, I realized that it can actually be used to my advantage, and I was able to create the textures of the leaves as well. As you can see, can create the shadows, and the color selection was limited, but you can mix the colors that you need, so that was not a problem and not an issue. And you can see some colors are not so bad. The flowers came out really good, but obviously they were less paint and less coverage of a less area. So yeah, another thing that I liked about this paint is that I went over the entire butterfly with some more of the orange to brighten it up a bit more, and I didn't see much movement really with any of the black that went down previously. So that went down really permanently. And usually with watercolors, if you go over certain areas, you can lift certain areas of pigment off, and that didn't happen in this case. So definitely I changed my mind about this. Initially I was like, no, this is not going to work the way I want it to. But then as I worked with it, I needed to get used to it. So sometimes give a paint or a art supply a chance by working through a couple of pieces, or just giving it a try and working with it, and not just let the first impression make you judge the paint. Because I even now try to add a lot of water to the paper. Now this is hot press watercolor paper I'm using, and I added a lot of water to the paper. I used some of the pigment of the paint. I was adding it just to darken some areas, to see how it moves around, how I can get it to flow around, and honestly it worked really well for that. So the background, I had no problem in applying the paint. It does look blotchy, but that was what the look I wanted it to have, and I was able to add a lot of water, and the paint was able to mix, and I was able to blend the paint well on the wet paper. So definitely it is a beginner's watercolor set. I wouldn't say it is a high-end professional watercolors, but it is a watercolor that I think a beginner can use. Even a professional can use it. Only thing, don't get mistaken by the first impression and think, no, it's not going to work, because it actually can work to your advantage if you just know, experiment with it and try it out, and you will actually find a way to make the paint work, and it'll actually work to your advantage, which is what happened in this piece. So you can see I'm drying off the paint, and I'm just touching up some of the edges. Yeah, so all in all, it wasn't such a bad experience. Initially I was a bit unsure about it, and it was you know, giving me a bit of a hard time because it was very slippery sort of. But once I got the hang of it and the feel of the texture, I was able to create a beautiful piece. So yeah, definitely if you are a beginner and you're looking for something on a budget and you don't spend too much, definitely give this one a go. It's definitely at the beginning range of maybe trying out watercolors for the first time. For beginners, definitely I think it would work perfectly for you. And even for professionals, if you want to do studies or quick capturing of urban painting, I think it can work perfectly well for that too. So if you're looking for something that's not too expensive and just something to try out, these are definitely something that you can try out. And like I said, first impressions are not always correct, because my first impression was not too happy with it, but once I started working with it and I got a feel for the paint, I actually did realize that no, this paint is quite good. It's able to achieve whatever I needed it to. The colors are very thick and opaque, similar to gouache in certain aspects, which is a good thing. And yeah, like I said, the white is incredible. The white really is opaque, which is something not so common with watercolors. But like you can see, I ended up with a beautiful piece. I can layer color again and again over, and I'm not having it bleed or lift off any of the previous layers. So definitely, if you're a beginner looking for something that's more even if you're a professional and you want to just have a paint that you can try out, and you want to maybe preserve your more expensive watercolors for more detailed work, then you can definitely invest in this paint. It's really it's not a bad paint at all. So I guess that's it for this video. I hope you found it helpful. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, don't forget to like and share. Feel free to comment below, and don't forget to subscribe. Till the next one. Bye.